This is the Fox Report. It's the bottom of the hour. Here's what's happening. Growing fallout from President Obama's use of executive orders. Actions that critics say strip power away from Congress. House Speaker John Boehner responding to the president's recent "so sue me" comment. Boehner says that's exactly what he plans to do. And in a new op-ed piece, he explains why suing the president must be done. Our political insiders are here. You can join the conversation on Twitter at Julie Banderas and at FN Insiders. Pat Caddell, a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter and Fox News contributor, joins us from Charleston, South Carolina. And here at home base in New York City, John Boutillier, former Republican congressman for New York, and Doug Schoen, former pollster for President Bill Clinton and a Fox News contributor as well. Gentlemen, thank you all for coming in and talking. We got a lot to talk about tonight, so let's just get right into it. Pat, I want to start with you. President Obama, and I want to go to his executive order policy, okay? He once said in his 2013 State of the Union address, and he was speaking, in fact, about climate change at the time, but he said, and I'm going to quote, "If Congress won't act sooner to protect future generations, I will." With Congress unwilling to make really any real action at this point, and a lot of polls out there say that Congress isn't really doing much. Do you feel like President Obama's perhaps abusing his power?
Well, I've said so, and we've said so on the show for some time. What is shocking to me is that John Boehner and the House waited this long to take the president on when he's been changing the rules on the environment, more importantly, just ignoring the statute on even Obamacare and making it just high-handedly. Jonathan Turley, who also wrote today, who is my hero in this, who is a liberal Democrat and a supporter, has been a supporter of President Obama, has said it flatly. This man is abusing the Constitution worse than anyone, including Richard Nixon. It is, we need a rule of law here, not a rule of simply who has the votes or who can do whatever he wishes to do. And the American people are starting to catch on. I'm amazed at the president's response that I don't have to follow the law. Things need to be done.
I want to go to Jonathan Turley's comment, as you just mentioned it, in his op-ed, since you did just bring it up. And I want to quote part of it in the New York Daily News. He says this: "Whether it is sue me or bring it on, presidential taunts tend to play better politically than practically. The invitation for a congressional lawsuit may sound on its face like it's welcoming judicial review, but it's not." Doug, if John Boehner files a lawsuit against Obama's executive order, is it going to hurt the GOP?
It could hurt the GOP because there is an image in the electorate of a basically paralyzed political system with the Republicans actually less popular than the Democrats. Now, in this case, I agree with my colleague Pat Caddell that what the president is doing is overstepping and overreaching. But what the American people want to hear from John Boehner is we have an agenda. We're going to push it forward to revitalize the economy and get the country moving again, not confrontation. So I think the lawsuit is a double-edged sword, which is exactly what President Obama is betting on.
John, I want you to react to John Boehner's op-ed today, and let me read it first. His op-ed piece today from CNN.com, the Speaker of the House says this: "What's disappointing is the president's flippant dismissal of the Constitution we are both sworn to defend. It is utterly beneath the dignity of the office. I know the president is frustrated. I'm frustrated. The American people are frustrated, too." What do you think of that?
Well, I'm frustrated hearing all this and realizing that the President of the United States and the Speaker of the House cannot even sit down anymore and have a conversation and come to some middle ground, which is the way the system is supposed to work. And it's not working. And I think it goes back early on in this president's tenure, the way Obamacare was passed, all with Democrats in the House and Senate, dirty deals to get it done. The public was never for it, still isn't for it. It became the law of the land, and then this president started changing the law unilaterally. This has so soured the political system that no one can work with each other on anything else. They can't work on Obamacare. Immigration is crying out with these children sitting down there
And
for
we're going to get into
something.
that in just a moment.
And here's the problem.
Yeah.
The president wants to let everybody in and make them citizens so they can vote Democrat. That's the Democratic policy, all right? The Republican policy, they don't have one.
Send them all back.
Send them all back is Laura Ingraham. Send everybody back. John McCain, he wants to give them amnesty. There is no unified Republican response.
There's no compromise also.
I want to read a couple of responses on Twitter. Stephen Moore writes, offer a solution. Step outside the idea of Boehner. It isn't working or making a difference. We must influence. Dwayne Scholl writes me, bad move for GOP because POTUS has 182 executive orders to date, the lowest for presidents in past 50 years. There is no standing.
You know, Stephen Moore had it right, Julie. We need solutions to problems like immigration. We need solutions to problems like an economy that is growing at less than 2.5%. Bottom line, we're not getting them. We need them, not lawsuits, progress.
Let's move on to immigration. It's a great topic.
Yeah.
Sorry, go
let me
ahead.
say-
No, Pat, go jump in.
Let me throw into the second tweet there. Yes, the president has made less executive orders, but the ones he's made are so huge and so far beyond the lines. Usually executive...
Give me examples.
Well, the health care, suspending the law, putting out, even though ignoring statutory deadlines, statutory issues. Same thing with the appointments in which he was slapped down by the Supreme Court, 9-0 on I get to make appointments, even though he defended the very same process when he was in the Senate during these sort of phony fall recesses that they do. I can go on the EPA. I'm going to just go ahead and unilaterally just change the law. He got slapped down on that. He is getting slapped down. He is overreaching in a big way. It's not about numbers. It's about concept. And Jonathan Turley put his finger on it 2 weeks ago. And it's frightening to me because of the precedent we're starting to see for the future of a really imperial presidency. When he said Barack Obama is doing what only Richard Nixon could dream of doing.
Executive orders have backfired. Immigration reform has backfired. Many of the president's promises have backfired. Immigration reform, the crisis right now, in fact, for example, on our southern border is boiling over. We've been talking about it on a daily basis. Lawmakers are under fire, accused of not doing enough to address the influx of illegal immigrants, and I'm talking tens of thousands of them. Protests erupting on both sides of the issue as Washington apparently waits to get involved. And President Obama is vowing that he will act without Congress if necessary. Once again, he'll pick up the phone and use his pen and ignore what Congress wants. But leaders in our border states say that the problems need to be fixed now. Some 50,000 illegal immigrants have either been caught or have been voluntarily surrendered since just last October, John.
Yeah. Well, listen, this thing has got to come to a head with some solution that Congress and the president agree on. Because what's happened is the repeated talk that we were moving towards an amnesty this summer. In August, we heard that by August there will be one passed in the House. That has attracted all these parents in Central America to send their children up here to get them into America to get the amnesty. Well, there isn't going to be an amnesty. So we have the children. What do we do with them? Are we going to send them back? It's a terrible mess.
Julie, this is crying out for a solution, and a solution that strengthens border enforcement, clarifies policies regarding these children, and offers a pathway to citizenship for those who are here. The tweeter before, Stephen Moore, said, let's get together, let's have a real solution. This is crying out for a legislative compromise. We're not going to get it. John's right, and it's outrageous that our politicians aren't doing it.
Regarding granting amnesty and actually giving incentives to these tens of thousands of illegal immigrants that are dangerously crossing the border with children, and that is a humanitarian crisis right there alone. Let's listen to Lindsey Graham. One moment. Hold on one second.
The president has sent a message out, where he knows it or not, if you get to America, you can stay. He needs to speak to the people in that region, take a leadership role, saying children coming here illegally will be sent back. If you don't do that, you're going to incentivize more children coming here illegally. But
IB Ron writes me on Twitter, Obama is buying the illegals with our tax money. We'll cut Social Security, Medicare next year when all the money is gone. But he wants money in order to fix this problem.
He wants $2 billion from Congress. Yeah, and in asking for that, maybe there'll be some deal worked out finally where they are forced, in order to appropriate the money, what are we spending it on? Is it on border security, as Doug said. Are we talking to the governments down there and telling them, you better stop letting your people come up here because we're sending them back and we're going to make you pay for it?
What is the $2 billion going to be spent on?
I have not a clue, Julie. God knows the way these people, when they appropriate and what they spend on. First thing you've got to do is take care of these children. This is unbelievable that parents are so desperate that they're sending these children with these coyotes. That's the first thing. This is a human rights crisis. But this is also the product of everybody on both sides politically playing fast and loose with immigration as opposed to really trying to solve it. As John said, the president tries to intimate that everyone can stay, and some of the Republicans say no amnesty. Other Republicans say we need cheap labor. Democrats say we need votes. But what's not being done is what Doug said, which is we need to sit down and solve this immediately. And by the way, the first thing you've got to do is help these children and send them back, because nothing will prove that there is not an amnesty than doing that. But there needs
to be a deterrent. If there is no deterrent, it's like any criminal. I mean, if you do away with the jails, people are going to commit more crimes.
But Julie, these are children, and bottom line,
and it's awful because their parents
we
are
need to
using their children
clarify
as
our
tools
laws
to
here.
break the
we
laws.
need to make it clear what policies
Right.
we're going to follow in a humane, rational way.
All right, you guys stand by. We are going to be discussing much more coming up. New research shows voters are looking for a new political direction. Now there's a new movement. Americans taking a stand against so-called status quo in Washington. It's called We Need Smith. The Vox News political insiders are coming right back, and we want to hear from you. What frustrates you most? I know it's a long list about Washington politics. Try to fit it in 140 characters. Tweet your responses at Julie Banderas and at FN Insiders. We'll be right back.